Good afternoon and happy Wednesday. Welcome to another live stream of Logistics with Purpose. I'm your host, Enrique Alvarez, and we're going to have a really good show today. Adrian, how are you doing? Good afternoon.
Good. I'm good. Thank you. Good to be here. Looking forward to this discussion. Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
I love Wednesdays. They're always actually a good day for me. And I think everyone's going to be super excited at the guest that we have today. But before we dive into our guest for today, Adrian, there's been, for the last couple of months, but more recently as well, it's been a lot of things going on in the logistics world, and in particular with equipment availability and rates in Asia. It's been crazy.
It has. It really has been a challenge to find the space, to find the right combination for our customers of getting the rate that they can live with, and the space as well. So we've had some late nights of late with our partners in China, trying to get space for a big project that I'm working on, and the key is just to be persistent and to keep hanging in because opportunities open up. So we've learned not to accept no.
I agree, right? It's all about just keeping up, being stubborn, continuing to work hard, and hopefully this will eventually kind of stabilize. But yeah, big thanks to all our partners in Asia and everyone. Big thanks to everyone in logistics these days, in supply chain, everyone that's kind of watching this show and that are participating with the supply chain community and the Supply Chain Now community. Good luck, and let's keep it up, guys. We kind of like need to cheer each other up a bit with everything that's going on. But so Adrian, go ahead. Why don't you just let us know who we have today, and maybe welcome everyone that's joining us.
Yeah, welcome to the audience. Old faces, old names, and lots of new people. So welcome to the show. I assure you're going to enjoy listening to and seeing the executive director of Books for Africa, very, very loyal supporter of Vector Global, and we have a very much appreciated relationship with Books for Africa. So without further ado, Pat Plonski, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Great. Pat, I know you're in DC at the moment. Would you like to just share with us the reasons that you're there?
I am. Thank you. Yes, Books for Africa has good relationships with a lot of African countries. And so it's important to keep those relationships strong. So I have meetings with some of the key members of the African Diplomatic Corps. I'm talking to the South African ambassador tomorrow, the Zambian ambassador, the Tunisian ambassador, the African Union ambassador, and probably missing a few, the Egyptian delegation. So it's all about keeping those connections strong to make sure that we're getting books across the African continent to all the countries where it's wanted, making sure that people know about this program and that it's available for them and that we want to work with them.
Excellent. That's great. And you're hoping to have one of the ambassadors down in your new warehouse in Marietta, Georgia, for a good party and get together on June 26th. Share a little bit more about that, if you would.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a new warehouse that we're opening in Atlanta. It's actually already opened. Soft opened, I guess. Soft open is the official terminology. But we're going to have a grand opening next month in June. And I have gotten confirmation from the African Union ambassador that she will be available to be our keynote speaker. So we're looking forward to that. And so I'll be meeting with her and her staff on Friday, and we'll work out some of the logistics. And hopefully the day before, we'll be able to do some visits in the Atlanta community with some of our key corporate partners that have volunteered in the warehouse, people like Coca-Cola and Home Depot and UPS and a number of others. And hopefully we can bring her by the Vector offices as well to say hello.
That'd be wonderful.
And talk about interactions across the African continent. The African Union ambassador, of course, representing the entire African continent, not unlike the European Union speaks for the whole continent.
Right. We would certainly love to meet her. That'd be very, very exciting. And we're all looking forward to June 26th for sure. So on with the show, Pat. Tell us a bit about your professional background and also just where you grew up. A little bit about your early days.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm reminded of something the South African ambassador said a number of years ago when somebody asked him, "How did you get to be the ambassador of South Africa?" And he said, "I'm here by a series of accidents." And I thought, there we all are.
There's a lot of truth.
A series of accidents puts us where we are in life, or as I sometimes say, we go where the winds of fate blow us. So the winds of fate have blown me to Books for Africa. I'm very happy to be here. I always wanted to work internationally. And I sometimes tell this story. I was born on a farm in southern Minnesota. And on the hot summer days, working, one of the hottest jobs was pulling weeds out of the bean fields. And so I'd be pulling the weeds out of the bean fields, and I would look up and a plane would be flying overhead going somewhere. And I thought, I want to be going somewhere because it's really hot here pulling these weeds. And I love farming. I love growing up on a farm, but I was always interested in travel and history and governments, politics. And so here I was, born on this farm and interested in all of these places, which was somewhat unusual there. And so I actually had to get special permission from the grade school to allow me to take time off from recess, which was great. I wasn't that great at recess anyway. So I'd go to the library in the town, and I would get these books about things that nobody else was interested in, things like Greek mythology. Well, in my small town, no one was interested in Greek mythology, but I was interested in history and Greek mythology. And so now, as I'm having the opportunity to visit through Books for Africa many of the places where history was made, places like Alexandria, where the great Library of Alexandria was built, talking to the Tunisian ambassador. I may make it to Carthage, Rome, where some of the UN offices are located. So all in all, it's been a journey from growing up on a farm in a small town outside of a small town in southern Minnesota to traveling the world, meeting with our partners, and getting a lot of books delivered. That's, at the end of the day, that's how we measure success. How many books, high quality books, have we delivered to our partners in Africa? Right.
Great. Thank you, Pat. Appreciate that overview again. Enrique, you have a question?
Yeah, and before we kind of like continue with the story and the series of accidents that has led us all to be here today, I just want to welcome Peter to the show. Peter, always a pleasure having you here. Mustafa as well. Rhonda is also another regular. I think everyone's going to be very excited to get to know more about Books for Africa and Pat and his story. Tarun, again, this is my second live stream that I actually conduct, and just reading through all these different comments is a lot harder than people might expect, and especially when there's so many people interested in the topic that we're going to be covering today, and especially because there's great people from all over the world. So if I missed anyone, we'll continue to read these comments throughout the conversation with Patrick, but thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Logistics with Purpose. Pat, so you grew up in a farm. You always wanted to travel. You were passionate about books at a very early age. Share a story that kind of like shaped you as a child, more than just the picking, farming and picking beans on the fields. I mean, is there anything that kind of led you to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, it's there's so many stories, I think, that kind of have moved me along. I think with Books for Africa, that probably the story that comes to mind is I had been working in government. I'd been an executive director. I was working on a PhD program at the University of Minnesota. And so I heard that this job at Books for Africa was available. And so I applied and never thought I'd get hired, and promptly left on a program that I had funded to go to Europe. So I ended up going to Budapest, Hungary. And so what I remember is those were back in the days when it was hard to get internet access all the time. So I was at the Ministry of Agriculture in Budapest looking out at the iconic building, the old Parliament, which is, if you see pictures of Budapest, you see the Parliament buildings. And right across the street was the Ministry of Agriculture. So I'm checking my emails, and I got an email from my wife saying Books for Africa wants to talk to me. And I thought, wow, here I am in Budapest looking at the Parliament, at the Ministry of Agriculture, and I may soon be in Africa getting books to Africa. So it's kind of, again, we go where the winds of fate blow us. The other story that comes to mind, so I did get interviewed, and again, I didn't really think they would hire me. And so at one point, the founder says, "Why should we hire you?" And I thought, well, I mean,
that's a good question, right? That's what I've been trying to figure out, right?
And so I said to him, well, if you want to hire the person who knows the most about Africa, you probably shouldn't hire me, because I think there are people who know more about Africa than me. But if you want to hire somebody who gets things done, I'm your man. And the name of this program is Logistics with Purpose. That's really, I think, a lot about what Books for Africa is all about. It's about getting things done, and it's not always fancy. But there's always, at the end of the day, we deliver. We deliver the books. We line up the trucks. We can deliver 20 tons of books working with folks like Vector, almost in our sleep. We've done it so often, we've turned it into a fine art. And that's, at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself that question. What have we accomplished? Right. Did we get the job done? Did we deliver the books? How many books? To who? And it's those sorts of nuts and bolts, as I call it, logistical issues that are key to our success and key to our mission.
No, and that's incredible. And yeah, we have had the opportunity to work with you and your team, and you definitely run a tight ship. So you're the man that's getting things done, and we will continue to support you and your efforts, because what you're doing is great. And so for people that are listening to us, just maybe tuning in, what is the history and mission of Books for Africa? And you can give us a little more detail as of what is Books for Africa, for all of those out there that are kind of like have been living under a rock for a year or two. What do you guys do, and how do you measure success? By the amount of books. So if you can tell us a little bit more of the metrics of that success, that would be great.
Yeah. Books for Africa is the world's largest shipper of books to Africa. So I always say, everyone should have their elevator speech, and I have my elevator speech, and then I have the speech in case the elevator gets stuck and the speech gets a bit longer. So the elevator speech is that Books for Africa is the world's largest shipper of books to Africa. We have sent now over 50 million books and almost 3 million digital books all over Africa over the last 32 years. We send books in mostly English, but also out of Paris, and French books out of Quebec. We send books out of a number of different locations. Containers leaving in a couple of weeks out of London. Sort of those British style books that are desirable. We're sending some Somali language books. We've sent Portuguese books. We aim to deliver whatever kind of books people want. That's what we want to deliver. And so that's our purpose. And we ship to every single country on the African continent, 55 countries. Now, some countries get more books than others. There's more demand for English language books in some places than others. So it's all about that. That's where the logistical element comes in. It's like, well, how do we get this done? How do we finance it? Do we have the kind of books that these partners want? If this is a remote location, are we delivering all the way, or are we delivering it to a main port and then they're picking it up? So a lot of those kinds of issues.
We've been to your warehouse multiple times, and it's always fun to kind of like help the volunteers I guess, sort the books out and put them in different categories. But so how does the sorting process in the U.S. Work, and where you're getting the books from? And
it's like a large funnel, and everything funnels to Atlanta, Georgia, where I know you guys are. And so what we do is the word is put out that Books for Africa wants books. The word is out all the time. We always want books. We'll need 3 million books. We'll send 3 million books this year. We sent 3.7 million a year ago. And so to send that quantity of books we need to touch even more because a lot of them get recycled. So books are coming in from all different sources. Sometimes they're being delivered in our warehouse in Atlanta or our smaller warehouse in Minnesota by a shopping bag. And that's good. But what I really like is when the semi-trailer backs up, because we need tons of books. And so we work with schools, libraries, universities, but critical is working with large-scale partners, people like Better World Books, based in South Bend, Indiana. They're the largest supplier that we have of university books and library books. Groups like Walker Bookstore, Follett deliver huge quantities of K-12 books. And then some publishers, Capstone, Lerner, Norton, Elsevier, deliver huge quantities of educational books. You add that all up, and it's a lot of content. Our warehouse is bigger than a football field, and it is full. And so we need to sort them. So all the books come into Atlanta, soup to nuts, and then they have to be sorted. And about 10,000 volunteers approximately in the Atlanta area sort those books every day, except Saturdays and Sundays. And with COVID, it dropped down a little bit, but it's really picking up. So we need the books. We need to sort the books, and they're sorted by categories. They're inventoried, and then we need to ship the books, and that requires financing. So it could be that, the Embassy of Egypt, let's say, is funding a container. More often, it's an NGO or a private partner or someone in, a group of Somali cab drivers, perhaps, that are pooling their resources to pay to send those books to Africa. So, and then all the distribution is handled by our partners in Africa. At 32 years, we've never had any staff in Africa. We've distributed 50 million books, always by those volunteer partner organizations.
Incredible milestones, incredible goals, and we can't hardly wait for what you guys are going to be doing in the future, because I'm pretty sure there's another at least 50 million books coming up shortly. But let me interrupt you just to read some of the comments. Hamada says hi. Mark Preston also says hi from the he's the Southern Sensei.
I must comment on that, Mark. If you're a fellow martial arts man, we need to be chatting. I'm as well. So as soon as I saw that, my eyes lit up.
Clay is also here, and Scott as well, who's the host sensei for some of us. So thank you very much. A lot of comments. We'll keep reading them. And again, I exhort everyone that's actually listening to Pat to not only write comments, but also questions. I think that could be interesting and could, of course, make the conversation more dynamic. And this is what live streams are for at the end of the day. But anyway, so Adrian, go ahead.
Sure. So, Pat, certainly our professional lives have been turned upside down in the last 12 months plus due to COVID. How has the business and professional landscape changed and evolved for you and Books for Africa during that time?
It's been a challenge. That said, we've come through it better than I thought we would. We actually had budgeted to lose $200,000 this year. Our budget is approximately, $3.3 million, $3.2 million. Takes about $1 to send a book to Africa, a little less, maybe 80 cents. And when you take all of the books we send divided by all the money, we thought, when COVID was coming, we putting together our budget. We thought, maybe we're going to raise $2.2 million this year, and we're going to lose about $200,000. It's actually gone, while it's been a challenge, it has gone better than that. So we're going to be in the black this year. We're not going to lose $200,000. Anybody running an organization, as I say to my board, as your manager, I never want to lose money. That's not how we do it at Books for Africa. Some of it is, it's not a good way to do it. And some of it is a point of pride that we run a tight ship. Financially, we're coming out okay. We're going to send about 2.9 million books this year. We wanted to send over 3 million as a goal, but this is, even COVID notwithstanding, it's our fourth biggest year ever. So, while we're disappointed, we're not sending 3.1 million as we hoped and planned to. To send 2.9 million is where I think it's going to be is pretty good. It's one of our biggest years ever historically. As our founder, Tom Worth, said, though, Pat, we can't plateau. We always need to send more. And I agree with that. I strongly agree that that's how it needs to be, because the needs in Africa are so great. Right. Other COVID things, just the simple logistics. This is a logistics discussion. Trucks are lined up to pick up cargo. We're ready to go. Guess what? The trucks can't make it because they're not available, or the ship got rolled for pickup. It's not leaving. That kind of stuff. You just need to sort of stay flexible, stay nimble, and roll with it. You always got to roll with it. COVID, not enough books, not enough volunteers, but we've just rolled with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Very tough, right? Just go through thing. And I'm sorry to interrupt both, but Peter has a good question, and also another comment that I would love to kind of hear your thoughts on. So the question is, are this donated or new books? It's his question.
Yeah, the answer is both. Some of our partners, for example, USAID partners in particular, embassy projects, things like that, they want only new books with selection by title. And so a lot of times children's books projects. So we just wrapped up a big project in Ethiopia, sending millions of children's books, all selections by title. And so that requires new books, lists of books, and that's so that we need to have that in our repertoire, something we can deliver. Other partners either don't care whether they're new or used. And so for them, they might say, well, I don't care, it's nice if it's new, but I need a lot of algebra books.
Right.
And algebra books aren't coming, they're not available new like that. So we get them from schools and things like that. So it depends what the partner wants, depends what's available to us. Sometimes a new book is essential. Sometimes a used book is better because the content is more useful than new books.
Right.
We sometimes recycle new books because they're not useful in Africa to our partners, or there's too much of a good thing.
A kind of follow-up comment from Peter on that. A couple of years ago, he was emptying out the house of books and thought he could probably donate some of them to the local library, but they said no, that they all needed in English, not in French. Would you kind of mention a little bit about the French-English problem? And the library didn't really accept the books, which he was kind of surprised and somewhat pissed about as well.
Yeah.
Had a comment from Mark Preston. Is there any vision of the digital world catching up to the book business plan for platform and return on investment?
Yeah, digital, we get asked that question a lot. I've been here almost 18 years at Books for Africa, 19 years. That question's been asked since every one of those years. The answer is 80% of the books that are being read are still read in traditional formats, in hard copy format. Why is that? Because they're cheap and they're durable, and people still like that tactile element. Having, I brought my Kindle with me. I read books on Kindle too, but there's the tactile element is still important, especially for educational books. In fact, I just posted something on LinkedIn an hour or two ago. The St. Paul, Minnesota, where I'm from, just indicated that they're spending $500,000, $500,000 to upgrade, buy more books for their kids, for the students in St. Paul. That's just kind of the way it is, that while digital books are great and they have a role, there's still also huge demand, not only in Africa, but in the United States for traditional formatted books. Again, 80% of the books are still used in that format.
Right.
But we provide digital books. We send, like I say, we sent almost 4 million digital books loaded on tablets, computers. If people want them, we have them.
You got them available, right? Peter asked, what's the balance between new and used?
Good question. It's I would say about 3/4 of what we send is used, and probably 25% is new, approximately. Right. Differs from year to year. Elsevier, the great publisher of medical books, just delivered 5 semi-trailer loads. that was great, and we'll get those out. We got offered 5 semi-trailer loads of Spanish books, brand new. We had to turn those down because really we wanted to get some to Equatorial Guinea, which speaks Spanish. But sometimes that's how it goes. That sometimes new books are offered, and sometimes you want them, and sometimes they're less desirable. So it's not always about that new books are better, but we like to have high quality books. And quality is, they need to be durable, they can't be all beat up, and they need to be the right topics.
Right.
I'll say though, a lot of the university books we get are also quite new. So for example, students right now are wrapping up their years here in the United States. They're donating their books. So a book that a student was using this month in May, we can have that to Africa in 2 months. It might be used, but it's the exact same book.
But it's current.
So very high, very recent, very high quality.
That I think McDellawitt, excuse me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but he just asked the question. Used means an old version, so I think there you have it. So it can still be a current version.
Well, go ahead, Adrian.
I guess it seems strange to say, but if there is a positive at all that's come out of the COVID environment that we found ourselves in, it's the fact that a lot of companies are now turning towards, or have turned towards, remote work. I must just say that here at Vector, we're very, very proud that we started the company based on that philosophy and have made it work very, very successfully. So a shameless plug for us on that score. But I know that Books for Africa, you changed to the remote work, much to Aaron's delight, I must add, last year. How did that decision come about, and how many benefits have you found as a result of that decision?
Yeah, I'm an old school, probably more than I even want to admit. My colleagues probably say I'm more old school than I should be, but so I'm the kind of guy who likes to go to my office and everything's there. So, there's my computer, there's my paper files, there's the emails that I printed off, and that's kind of the way that I've operated for many, many years, and I prefer it that way. Well, COVID occurs, and by force of necessity, we all need to home office, just like I'm sure many of the listeners here. And guess what? I can set up an office at home that's just as efficient, and I can have my files there, and maybe I guess I don't need to print off so many things. And it actually worked very well. I did not expect that it would, but if you have a properly set up home office, it can be very functional. We had the situation at Books for Africa where we actually have 3 footprints. So we have a large warehouse in Atlanta, a smaller warehouse in Minnesota, and then we had an office in Minnesota. So the lease was up on our Minnesota office, and we thought, well, okay, we're paying for space that we're not using. Let's just close that down. We'll consolidate the warehouse in the office, and we'll use that on occasion for meetings and and things like that. So that's what we did. So we closed the office in Minnesota. Most of the Minnesota office staff are home office, but then I go there to the warehouse office at least once a week, sign letters, and I think when COVID abates, we'll have our meetings there. So it's really the best of all worlds to have a warehouse office that you can use as need be.
Sure.
And I think a lot of other organizations maybe have the issue of they maybe have longer term leases. If you've got 3 years left on your lease and you want a home office, that's a tricky situation. Right.
I know that I've been reading a lot of surveys of late and articles on people returning to the workforce if offices are still open and operational, and it seems like the general consensus is that staff would be happy with going back maybe twice a week. That seems to be kind of what I'm reading across the board. Enrique has a question, I know, but before we get to that, Eduardo Kamimura, welcome to the show. McTellowit, welcome to the show. Demosthenes, great to see you again. Welcome to the show. And Enrique, over to you again.
Yeah, and before I ask you my question, Demos, welcome again. I actually had the pleasure of interviewing Demos. He's in Panama, and Yeah, he's an expert when it comes to Latin America. So if you have any kind of questions or thinking of doing anything in Panama or Latin America, I would definitely reach out to Demos on LinkedIn. But so Patrick, you know Africa fairly well. You've worked with Africa for many, many years. Could you give us one or two kind of stories that could be interesting or funny, or just some stories that you think are actually a good way of, I guess, not summarizing, because you can't generalize things that quickly, but something that kind of helps our audience understand how challenging your logistics and your supply chain really is, especially because you're trying to help people in this very remote and complex regions of the world.
The story that immediately comes to mind, and this sort of illustrates the digital transformations that we've seen over the last years and decades, is when I first went to Africa some 18 years ago. You could have email, but really when I went to Africa, I was like, I'd be gone for 2 or 3 weeks, and I was largely out of communication with my home office or my home. And so it would be occasional phone calls. There were these cyber cafes. You'd go there and you'd pay for whatever, 30 minutes a time or whatever. But the bandwidth was such that it was really slow. So maybe you'd go and be able to respond to 2 or 3 emails. It was just really difficult. Yeah, I mean, you'd wait forever. It was so slow. Well, compare that to now, where even a rural hotel in rural Africa will have Wi-Fi, and you don't need to go to a cyber cafe. You can pull out your phone or your laptop, and you can be in quite easy contact with your home office or people across the world. That has been a dramatic transformation across the world and across Africa, even in very remote areas. It's hard to find a place in Africa, almost like a hotel that wouldn't have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, they're exponentially, right? Kind of transforming the whole continent and every single country with this digital transformation, and we love that kind of that way of describing the change that's happening.
Now, of course, some people are going to say, "Hey, wait, Pat, there's a lot of." I've been to Africa. Some villages don't even have electricity, so yeah, that's an issue too. And I think as part of the divide is you've got, on one hand, you've got villages or let's say a library that doesn't have anything, no email, no nothing. And then you have people very close by who in the country or the next town over who are able to have Wi-Fi and they can communicate with the world. And so it really is a situation of the haves and the have-nots, I think. And so part of our goal at Books for Africa is to equal that playing field to have more haves.
Right. Pat, tell us about the container captain program that you have and been running for a while now.
Yeah, that's a great program. When I came in, I'm always looking at things through a rear view mirror. You can tell I have a couple of degrees in history. When I came in at Books for Africa, there was we were under $500,000 and in total budget. And there were questions, well, how are we going to continue to survive, because the fundamentals were changing. And so what we came up with and really accentuated was the of outsourcing fundraising. And so the funds that are raised at Books for Africa, about half of the funds are raised by people sending containers to specific places. And so many of those containers are organized, not by me and my staff at Books for Africa, but by someone who might be in Atlanta or Cincinnati or Los Angeles or London or somewhere else. It's not my project, it's their project. They're raising the funds to send books to a specific place, and they sort of view us as a vendor, and they're very excited about that project. They know the recipients maybe. And so that's the container captain project. That person who's organizing that effort might have resources, or they may be a person with very little money at all, but they're marshaling the resources of their colleagues, their churches, their Rotary clubs, their mosques, whatever it is, and raising the funds. And then they hit the target. They send us the funds, and then we organize the shipment and give you fine folks at Vector a call and say, we're ready to go. That container is ready to go to Malawi.
Right.
And so, for example, one of the projects we're working with now is everybody's heard the story of the boy who harnessed the wind. The boy from Malawi, he couldn't go to school, didn't have money to go to school, so he went to the local library. He was interested in wind power, and so he set up a windmill in his village and created opportunity to charge for his home, to get electricity for his house, and then later the whole community. Well, that story captured the imagination of a lot of folks, and so he has a nonprofit, and guess what? They contacted us, and they want to send a container of books to Malawi. And
wow.
Vector, you guys are hauling it, I think, in a couple of weeks.
That's a great story, right?
Yeah, we've got that.
Because it was a video. So this is all because of a proactive approach of a young person in Malawi that had the idea of actually not kind of conforming to the norms or to whatever his environment was, and trying to change it. And it kind of went back to your donors, and then all of a sudden he not only got electricity for his house, but then a lot of attention for his whole community, and that one person is making a big difference. I have a quick question from Christy Porter, and by the way, if you have anything related to marketing, she's incredible, so you should contact her. What is your advice for nonprofit leaders who need to engage stakeholders at a distance and can't yet meet in person with them or hold events?
Great question. Books for Africa is a global brand, a global organization. So many of our donors we haven't met with. And so, in fact, I was on a board for an organization Adrian working in South Africa, building schools. And we were going through the donor list, and I said, as a member of the board, I said, what we want as an organization is to have so many donors that we can't meet them all. We don't know who they are. That's what you want. You want to have so many donors that you cannot connect with them. And so obviously we connect with them in other ways. So, you want a good brand first and foremost. You want to have a brand that resonates. I think Books for Africa is a great brand, hopefully, and it says what we do. And then when you communicate with your partners in a variety of different ways, you want to do it in a very thoughtful way. So in different messages, not always the same message. So, sometimes it's about the books. Sometimes it's about our partners in Africa. Sometimes it's about the boy who harnessed the wind. You need to capture the imagination of your donors so that they get excited. And I've always found with the different organizations I've worked with that if you can get people excited, good things always happen. It always starts with that. You've got to get people excited.
Yeah. Right. That's a really, really good point. Very powerful. And Peter shared that was a good question, and I'm sure that it was a very good, relevant answer to the question. He runs a non-for-profit charitable foundation. Peter, I didn't know that. That's awesome. By the way, congratulations to you. Noor says hi, and Mark Preston. Mark Preston, great mission and work. Thank you for making a difference in this world. Lots of similar comments. So thank you, Pat, once again. We all know that you have a really good team. We all know you have really good leadership and you get things done, and you're operationally speaking very efficient, right? But this, of course, is you have more people involved in this. You have the experience and knowledge of the board and the project directors and the ambassador circle members. Could you tell us a little more about how this team of advisors or board members or ambassadors, as you call them, kind of guides you and Books for Africa through everything that you guys do?
I think the important thing, great question. I think the important thing is that everyone does what they do best. So I have a great team, and they're great at things like technology. So like Travis manages our sales force, and Chelsea, they're fabulous at it. I can't manage that database. I can use that database when I need to say, gosh, I can't find Adrian's number. I'll go onto Salesforce and find it. Guess what? It's right there. But, so you need people who can manage your technology. I'm not the best person to be lining up steamship lines. Enrique, you and your team are. So we don't try to arrange the logistics of arranging trucks and steamships and everything and dealing with ports. We outsource that to people like Vector Logistics. Books, it's great to, if I knew every book donor, that would be awesome, but it's much more efficient to work with one or two. So we have partners who collect the books, and I work with them and sometimes pay the trucking. You get way more books that way. At the end of the day, I'm for what works. In terms of board, different people bring different things to the table. So we have a number of African board members. Maybe 40% of our board is African diaspora members. They've got great connections in Africa. They understand the African context. They bring that to the table. Me, I'm meeting, I feel like I'm the concert master. I don't play any instruments. I'm sort of conducting. So I feel like I'm, in some ways I'm an imposter, but I guess someone has to do it. So, and then in terms of supporters, donors, donors want to be involved. Sometimes they want to be very involved. Sometimes they just want to provide financial support. And then lastly, like I'm here in Washington, D.C. Tomorrow I'm going to meet with the Zambian ambassador and the African Union ambassador on Friday. With them, it's about marshaling their support to provide us with input, what kind of books are useful, and for them to convey to their constituencies, hey, this is an important program, a good program. It adds value. The Zambian ambassador is the honorary chair of what we call our Summit Society, which is all of our top donors. So we work closely with him to connect. And so I think, long story short, you want different people who bring different things to the table, and then you want everyone doing what they do best. You don't want someone like me handling technology, for example. You want me doing whatever it is I do, and you want other people doing what they do best.
It sounds like there's in order for all of this to work and everyone doing what they're best at, it sounds like there's a lot of trust, and you have built really good long-term relationships with people, and I think that's what kind of like binds everything together, right? Because you can have different people and take their advice, but if you sounds like you trust people, and I think you have to, I guess.
Right. I mean, trust but verify. But you don't want to hire. You don't trust people. Is what you're saying. You don't want to hire people and then not take their advice. Why would you do that? Why would you hire somebody and give them a lot of money and then say, I'm not going to take your advice? You want to hire good people, and especially people you've worked with a number of years. We have a great team that's been with us a long time. Not only their skills have been verified long ago, so I know that they know what they're doing. So it's we almost read each other's minds, and in a good way.
No, it's a great team effort. So Pat, here we are halfway through May already. Share with us some of the highlights of this year, and if you would, a couple of moments of brevity, and please include that air conditioning story that you told us earlier.
Well, it's been a good year. Books for Africa is always about sending more high quality books. So around this time of the year, I provide my annual performance review report to my board. I serve at the pleasure of the board. If I'm not doing a good job, their job is to get rid of me. And so every year about this time, I provide the report, and we're very, the highlights, we sent our 50 millionth book this year. And so we are very excited about that. We documented that through a video, and so that's a huge milestone over 32 years to have achieved that. We're happy about it. We had a great virtual fundraiser. Questions about fundraising were asked. We had a virtual event that raised, I think, $400,000. And so that was great. While it's not our biggest year ever, it's our fourth biggest year ever. And so a lot of books were sent to, we've sent to 19 countries just in this fiscal year. So all of that gets reported, and we sort of come down the home stretch. July 1 is the end of our fiscal year. Some people may not know or care about a fiscal year, but to organizations like ours, it's like that's you want to finish strong. So
right.
That's what we're looking at.
Okay.
The air conditioning story. I was in Tanzania a number of years ago. I met a lot of great people in Africa. A lot of fun, a lot of good things accomplished. One of the stories is, you always want to work with people, and a lot of times the way this thing works is if you work with more senior level people, things sometimes they can get more things done. And sometimes you need to thank the senior level people. So I think in this case, I was in rural Tanzania, and we were thanking, a local official. And so we're at a government office, and it's hot. It was really hot there. And so we walk in, and it's hot outside and it's hot inside. And so we're meeting at the first level, sort of the receptionist. And then we get moved up to the next level, and it's like an anti-chamber, and it's a little cooler. There's some air conditioning. It's like, oh, this is nice. There's air conditioning. And then they take us in to see another person who's like the private secretary of the person we're meeting. And it's like, wow, it's kind of chilly here. I mean, this is really, I need a jacket. And then we meet with the actual top person, and his room is just frigid. And he's wearing a suit and a coat. And it occurred to me that the further we moved up the hierarchy, the colder the air got. So you measure you measure the importance of people by how cold their air is. There's an old line called "management by walking around," which means you just look around and see what you see is what you get. So that's what I saw
exactly
on that day.
I love that story. I'm going to remember that one.
That is a funny story.
That really cracked me up.
Peter, again interrupting you, Adrian. Peter, actually, you share the organization that he works with, Moto Helping to Educate Our Children for the Future. Amazing cause and great organization. I'll definitely take a look into that. And Peter, once again, thanks for doing that. And then another comment from Peter: we all serve at the pleasure of someone. In his case, his beautiful fiance. Just in case she's watching the show.
Right. Nice move, Peter.
Yeah, definitely.
Ramon, welcome. Ramon Gomez, welcome to the show. Good to have you with us. So, Pat, moving on to your goals for the rest of the year as well. I'm sure there's what you feel are underserved areas or countries in Africa that you haven't got books to those in need. What are those countries, and what are your plans?
Great question. We have our top 10 list, and there's countries that we send books to with frequency, all the time. And those tend to be countries where English is widely spoken. Right. Maybe they're former British Commonwealth countries. Sometimes, those countries like Nigeria and Ethiopia are countries with huge populations. I think 20% of Africa is Nigerian, and then Ethiopia, also a large population. Those countries we're sending a lot of books to all the time. Other countries, I think there's demand, but we just maybe need to think of it. And so that's why I'm making a point of meeting with the Egyptian delegation, I believe tomorrow. Yes. And so the question is, we can deliver lots of books across Egypt. Are they in demand? How would we get them there? And I think what we see around the world is more and more people are speaking English because it's the common tongue. Right. And so that's not to speak against local languages or regional languages, but there is a need for society and humankind has determined that there's a value in a common tongue, and English is more and more is becoming that common tongue. And so for Africans to get ahead. Many of them have deemed it good to know English and to perfect their skills. So I think, even areas in Africa that are not English speaking may find value in our books. So my goal is to talk to representatives from those countries, and even if they're Arabic or Francophone or Portuguese or Spanish speaking, whatever they are, to say, hey, we have these books. If you want them, we're happy to work with you to get you these books.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Pat. And we're excited to explore those opportunities into different countries in Africa, certainly. So we look forward to doing that together with you.
Ramon Eduardo says thank you for the knowledge and the message shared here as we kind of wrap up our live stream today. He loves logistics. And Patrick, thank you very, very much. At the end of the day, 50 million books so far, 19 countries this year alone, experienced team, very agile, flexible, and committed. It costs around $1 to ship, maybe a little bit less. What can we do to help? How can we, the supply chain now community, the supply chain community around the world and logistics community, help out? What can you,
Yeah.
how can we help you and Books for Africa?
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. We need four main things to get books to Africa. We need the books. So we need to donate the books in large quantities. We need, if you're in Atlanta, we need help sorting those books. We need, of course, the funds to send those books. It takes about $1 to send a book to Africa. And then we need partners in Africa to distribute those books, or table captains, container captains to help organize that. The easiest way to help us is www.booksforafrica.org. Go to our website, and you will see that the website is segmented into, donating books, donating money, or arranging a specific container to a specific place. The other thing I would just add is, and I love this program because logistics are so important to what we do. A lot of times people think that international development work is very fancy and it's about mystical things. A lot of times it's just very simple. It's simple organization, getting books, warehousing books, right, organizing books, sending books, and to do it repeatedly and to do it well is what we do. It's a lot of times it's just the simple organizational nuts and bolts of the logistics of making that happen, and to do it efficiently and to use those funds as efficiently as possible, and so that you add value. At the end of the day, we all have to add value. Whatever we're doing, we want to add value. And so how we measure our adding of value is, well, how many books did we send to Africa, with the assumption that they're all high quality books.
No, absolutely. And so there you have it. It's a very straightforward and easy recipe for the amazing success that you're having. And if donate, sort, fund, contacts in Africa is kind of like what you said, summarizing it. And the other dimension that I would put for everyone that's listening out there, and for everyone that actually is going to listen to this once we post it and record it, is just go and check the video out. I think Clay just put the video, the 50 million books that you shipped, and there's other videos as well in your website, or just Google Books for Africa, because I feel like the main thing that will definitely convince people to either, again, donate, help sorting, help funding, or just helping share the contacts in Africa, it's just looking at all this kids and children just reading. It's just when they get the container, when you open the doors, when you have the pallets, you would think that you're handing out PlayStations or iPads. I mean, they're amazed and happy, and you can see it in their faces, and they're all kind of go out and start reading books, which is something so humbling, at least for me, and probably for people that are living in this side of the world. It's great. So, Patrick, thank you so much. A couple of comments. Peter, again, thank you very much for your participation. Scott hooked them up with CP right now. So there's a lot of people already asking for connections, and we'll share that connection. Where can they reach out to you, Pat, or the organization? Is there anything else other than the website that you want to?
Yeah, feel free to email me, Patrick at booksforafrica.org. It's, just like it sounds, one word, booksforafrica.org. And be happy to respond to you or get you to the right person. And different people bring different things. I mean, maybe in addition to those things that we mentioned, things like visibility. I always say nobody ever gave anything to anybody if they didn't know they existed. So people need to know that an organization exists in order to be able to provide support for it. And so sometimes people can help build our visibility. There's all kinds of different ways to help. Could be as easy as sending $1 to send a book, or working with a church or a Rotary Club to send a lot of books, or saying, well, gosh, I work for a PR firm. Maybe I should give Pat a call and see if we can help promote it. And yes to all of that.
Completely agree with you. And then Peter says, loving your new website, so easy to find info. Right. Mustafa, kind of to your point, would love to help spread awareness about this cause in any way possible. So Patrick, once again, thank you so much. For everyone listening to this live stream, thank you so much. Adrian, always a pleasure sharing some time with you. And
great. Thanks.
And I look forward to our next episode. I feel like we're getting slightly better, Adrian, every time we do this.
I think so.
It will only take at least another 20 episodes, but I think that we'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there in time. That's been great. Thank you again, Pat.
Everyone. It's been a pleasure, Pat. Thank you.
Thanks,
good luck
everyone.
In Washington.
Thanks.
Have a great
Appreciate it
in Washington. Bye-bye now.
All right. Have a great week.